why INFJs are bad listeners. I'm wondering how many comments I will get of people who didn't even watch the video who are just like, no way, I'm a great listener. So what I'm talking about in this video is going to be what INFJs are like in conversation. What's going on in their mind? What are they paying attention to? What is driving them through the conversation? And ultimately, why these things end up putting an INFJ in such a position where they might not be the best listeners. First up, this video is sponsored by Audible. You know, that place that has a bunch of audiobooks. You can go to audibletrial.com/FJ and get a 30-day free trial. Do you know what comes with a 30-day free trial from Audible? A free audiobook. Dude, don't know what to get? Why don't you check out this book, Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. He is a hostage negotiator. He is super cool. He knows what he's talking about. How to negotiate with anyone? I'm gonna listen to him. Once again, audibletrial.com/FJ, get a 30-day free trial, free audiobook. Let's get to the video. All right, so let's start with the extroverted feeling, which INFJs have. All the FJ types prefer extroverted feeling, or FE, to make judgments, to make decisions. Types who prefer FE tend to be very concerned with social harmony and things like proper etiquette, because they want to make sure we all get along. So in one-on-one conversations, an INFJ is going to feel the responsibility to make sure that you walk away from it feeling all right, or at least feeling a certain way. They usually will want you to feel good. They want you to feel listened to, but maybe they don't. Maybe they want you to feel bad when you walk away. But the point is, they feel a responsibility for you to walk away feeling a certain way. This is also interesting because the FE allows INFJs to be good at small talk and chit chat and whatever. Even though a lot of INFJs say, oh, I hate small talk. Here's the thing, no one really loves small talk, but an INFJ can feel like that's where I should go. Small talk, it's all right, I can do it. It's important to point out that when we're talking about the types, we're talking about cognitive functions, we're talking about preferences, we're not talking about skill. I might trip up and say, oh, INFJs are good at this, but that's not really what I mean. INFJs could be terrible at small talk, at making people feel listened to, blah, 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 but the point is that they feel the responsibility for it. They feel like that's what they should be doing. For an INFJ, the subject matter of a conversation may not actually be the most important thing in the conversation, but rather the most important thing is the vibe that is being created. How does the other person feel? Maybe how do I feel? But more importantly, how does this other person or group of people feel about what we're talking about? And in group situations, the INFJ is going to be very aware and paying attention to the dynamics of the group, which could manifest itself in, for instance, the INFJ figuring out who's the quietest person and is kind of getting left out, their opinion isn't being heard. The INFJ might, butt into the conversation to focus on that person and say, hey, Jimmy, what do you think about this? What do you like? Because ultimately, social harmony, that's what matters. INFJs are especially attuned to what do people place value on, because when we're talking about extroverted feeling is not just emotions. Emotions are only part of it. What feeling really is the value that people place on things. Do they think it's good or bad? Do they like it or not like it? And of course, emotion plays into that, but it's not the whole story. So when an INFJ is in a conversation about golf shoes, they want to see what everyone thinks about it. What's the best brand? What do people like about it or not like about it? Why did I pick golf shoes? I've never set foot on a golf course. Extroverted feeling is also like, what are people paying attention to? What is their attention fixed on? Because if you think about it, what people pay attention to is what they value. INFJs, furthermore, have their own opinions, as everyone does, but the primary objective for them is not so much to get their opinions out there. And they may be especially reluctant to say what they think, especially if they don't know what everyone else's reaction might be to it. They don't want to upset the balance. And when an INFJ expresses an opinion, they might feel the need to couch it in language in a certain way to get a desired response. Usually that response would be positive. They don't want to upset anybody. Maybe they do. Maybe you have an evil INFJ who wants to just make everyone upset. But the INFJ is going to feel like, I need to phrase this in a way to get a reaction. I need to get an emotional response, because The FE types, basically all the J types who have high FE or TE, they want responses from people. They say stuff in a way, whether it's a direct question or otherwise, to get reactions. And when you have extroverted feeling, you want a feeling reaction, you want an emotional reaction, you want someone to say, ooh, I like that, ooh, I don't like that. They need that feedback. So that was all talking about the extroverted feeling for an INFJ. And just to remind you, I talked about how they will want to make sure people feel listened to, that they feel good, that they walk away from the conversation feeling good, but maybe they didn't actually listen to the other person. They may be able to fake that they listened to them and say stuff, all the right stuff, like, oh yeah, I hear you, wow, I relate to you, I'm feeling what you're putting down, and maybe not actually listen much at all. Next, we're going to talk about introverted intuition, which is the more major preference that an INFJ has because it's the INFJ's dominant function. Introverted intuition, or NI, in a nutshell, to boil it down, is looking at the abstract world. It's a perceiving function, and it's trying to boil everything down in a nutshell. Introverted intuition is sort of like just trying to take all of the physical, concrete world and be able to make sense of it in like as pithy of a way as possible. Part of this is also recognizing patterns, seeing stuff happening in the real world and saying, oh, this is part of a pattern I've seen. This is part of a concept I have seen over and over again, so that I can now project out and see where this might go in the future. But because INFJs have introverted intuition, it can make them struggle to articulate what they think, like the way they see the world, their view on stuff. And that makes them ultimately maybe lag behind a bit in conversations as they struggle to put things into words. And it also leads them maybe to be more observers than trying to be the heavy hitters in a conversation. And NI plus FE, that's a combo for being really interested in social interaction as well as just like what makes people tick. And so because of that, I think INFJs are just much more interested in sitting back and observing. Let's contrast this with ENFJs, who also have NI-FE at the top, but it's the other way around, where the FE is the dominant function. INFJs and ENFJs are both looking at the people, what makes them tick, what are the patterns of the social interactions. But for an ENFJ, because feeling is first for them, the people are the point. Like, that's the ultimate thing. What are the people feeling? But for the INFJs, the people are secondary. What matters is the patterns. What matters is the abstract meanings of what's going on. Not so much like the people. INFJs are always looking in a conversation at what is going on beneath the surface. Of course, they also will listen to the actual words being said and what the meanings are, literally, but there is also a lot going on under the surface which INFJs are attuned to. So let's give an example. Let's give a concrete example, which is my nightmare as an INFJ, but I'm going to try, okay? Let's say we have a group of people and there's a conversation about what are the best restaurants in town. So the obvious thing to pay attention to, which most people would, and even many INFJs, this is what they'll be looking at, is what does everyone say their favorite restaurants are? What are the restaurants in town? What do I think? What do they think? Blah, blah, blah. But there is a lot more going on under the surface, which everyone is aware to certain degrees, but INFJs feel a certain tendency, a preference to look at those things first. For instance, what are people's body language? Who here seems nervous when they share their opinion, and who seems confident? Are people interrupting other people, and then how do they react when they've been interrupted? Are people cracking jokes? When people are laughing, who's looking at another person? Does that mean they like them? Do these two people not like each other because they don't seem to acknowledge each other's existence? Oh, when this person said they like this restaurant, these other two people kind of shot them down. So there's a lot going on beyond the conversation itself. And certainly the INFJ is paying attention to a degree to the conversation. But as you see, not the greatest listener, because they're preoccupied with other things. Now, I say preoccupied but it might not be ultimately what you in the moment are aware of. Like, as I said at the beginning of the video, I'm kind of exaggerating this for the purposes of illustrating the processes. But it's entirely possible that while you're listening to the conversation, you're just aware of all these other things going on without even realizing it. Now look, every human being is going to be aware of everything going on in that conversation to a certain degree. Sure, some people, you meet those people where it's like all that stuff goes over their head. They don't know what's going on in group dynamics. But I'm just trying to say it's not like a superpower for INFJs. It just means they have the preference to be tuned to those things first and foremost, and everything else is secondary. Because to an INFJ, what is happening in the moment is not really objectively what is happening in the moment. Sure, an INFJ will tell you, oh, we're having a conversation about restaurants, but really, to an INFJ, what's happening are all these things under the surface. And an INFJ is trying to take what's happening in the moment and fit it into this understanding they already have about human interactions, these patterns that they've already got in place in their minds about how these conversations play out, what people are like, maybe these specific people, what they're like. So for an INFJ, we have known concepts, and as few as possible, because we don't want a lot of them. If we could, we would just have one. We just have one way of conceptualizing things, and we're dropping every sensory experience we have into that, trying to force it into that pattern. And maybe we retool the pattern a little bit if we have to, but we're just going to try to force it through that way of seeing things anyway, which is perhaps another reason why INFJs maybe aren't the best listeners, because new information gets slotted into the old filing system of introverted intuition. The existing way, I keep saying old, which I think maybe has a negative connotation, into the existing framework. INFJs aren't looking for new patterns. They don't want new patterns. They have existing patterns in their mind, and life has to fit into those. So ultimately, this is why INFJs aren't the greatest listeners of the MBTI types, because they're not literally listening to the words that are coming out of your mouth. I mean, maybe they hear them, but to them, what they're really listening to are the meanings. And intuitive types have this thing where they skip ahead. They're trying to always guess what's going to happen next. They're not always right. But rather than just being in the moment, in the present moment, seeing what's actually happening, listening, they're always trying to be a few steps ahead and be like, oh, I see where the pattern leads. I know what's going on here. There you have it. INFJ's Bad Listeners, audibletrial.com/FJ. Check it out. Leave a like, subscribe. Till next time, stay cool and attractive.